Welcome everyone. With only a few weeks out until season 15 hits the Rift, I've got an insane amount of questions for preparation of a champion pool, champion pool, champion pool, champion pool, and more champion pools. So today we're going to be covering this champion pool, and I'm going to be walking you guys through how to create your perfect champion pool so you can start the season 15 guns blazing. So, we're going to be walking through the tiers first and why these champions are in the tier. We're going to be starting off with the Evergreen tier. The Evergreen tier are consistent of champions that are generally always good in the meta, and you can always do your and play out your identity on these type of champions because of how strong that their kits just in generally and how clear of an identity these kits clearly have. You got the classic control mages as a group in this category. We got the classic shovel move slash skirmish oriented champions that have a better side lane. And you got the even best side lanes slash assassins slash fighters that are also consistent of this pool. So we got ourselves three categories in this pool, which in the classic control mages. I'm going to be highlighting these for you guys. We got the shovel movers and we got the split pushes slash assassins in this top tier. Then below that, we got ourselves the semi-evergreen champs. These are champs that are also able to do the same thing as the evergreen champs, but they have a few caveats to it. So, for example, Talia, she can be put in the same category as like the Ahri and the Aurora when it comes to shovel moving, but Talia is really unique and her ult is very non-intuitive for a lot of players. So she has actually really low pick rate, and for that reason, a lot of people don't really feel comfortable around Talia. We're still going to put her in the same category as the Aurora and the Ahri. Then we got the Aesol, which is a champ that is not that good in higher elo, but actually really, really good in lower elo. But all the way up until Master Tier, I think you're able to just play this champ and do completely fine with it. So I would actually put him in a little bit of a similar fashion. Not really a control mage when it comes to learning the fundamentals of a control mage, but rather a little bit more of a control mage that actually does the skill and carry in the late game. So we're going to give him the green circle here. Then we got a little bit more of a shovel mover once again, very similar to the Ahri, Talia, etc. And then we got the Lux and the Nico. Nico can be put in a little bit of a interesting color because Nico is basically the combination of a classic poke mage in lane, but also a little bit of a skirmisher like the Ahri and the Aurora. So I would put Nico on yellow, and I would put Lux on pink or whatever color that may be. And the way that I want you guys to view Lux, right? Why is Lux in semi-evergreen and not in evergreen? Well, that's because of the fact that in higher elo, skill shots are really easy to dodge. So Lux is also a champ that is a little bit more effective in lower elo compared to higher elo, but you can easily get all the way up until master with Lux, no problem. Then, next up, we got ourselves the pool finisher tier. These are champions that are generally not good when you blind pick them. They're also not good in a lot of team compositions, a lot of matchups you really, really struggle with. But these champs are also quite easy to maintain. They are not too hard to play in general. And therefore, I think these champs are the perfect pool finisher. This is a perfect third pick. And that's something that we're going to be coming back on a little bit later. That's the identity and the ID of these type of champs. Not too hard to pick up, not too hard to maintain, really good as a counter pick or as a pool finisher. Whenever you get the right situation to play these champs, they're going to be incredibly effective, but not every single game. We then got the category of hyper mechanical and OTP champs. Very good examples are Katarina, Aurelia, Ambessa, Kiana, Zed, right? These are Yasuo, incredibly mechanical champions that really are just instantly forcing you in certain directions of your pool. So if you main or want to play any of these type of champs, I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper later. You're up for a little bit of a different type of journey than a lot of other players. There's also some champs that are just a little bit more mechanical than others, and therefore, for example, like Jace, like it's a champ that you could theoretically fit in a lot of pools, but he's so hard mechanically that it's not usually not really worth doing so. Then we got the don't recommend list. Unfortunately, my baby LeBlanc is in there because of the fact that she's going to get a rework. Otherwise, she would be in semi-evergreen. But besides that, we're not going to be playing a rework champion just yet. We're wasting our time. Heimerdinger, like, what do you even learn when you play this champ? Same as Kill. She's not a mid laner. Seraphine, very similar situation. I don't like this champion because what do you actually learn when you play this champ? Same as Zillion, you're just avoiding the lane and scaling up. And Anivia as well. You're just constantly clearing waves, and it's a really brainless play style. And therefore, I don't really recommend it. Like, you can play her, but she's just not that good at getting better at on the game. So this don't recommend tier has its reasons. We also got the cyclable and the meta dependent tier, mainly because of the fact that these champs aren't that good when it's out of the meta, but they can be very oppressive. We all know the horrifying AD carry meta that was happening last year. So we're gonna make a very special tier for these guys. Of course, there's arguments that you want to put other champs in this tier as well, but in general, I think this is a good place to start. I really wanted to make this tier as empty as possible. And then finally, right, we got champs that are amazing in lower elo and bad in high elo. The Malzahar, the Vigard, and the Fury, the Brand, rather simple champs that in lower elo are just incredibly effective because it's so easy to deal damage with these champions. But in higher elo, it becomes much, much harder. And then you also got the flip side of that, which are champs that are terrible in low elo because they're way too hard mechanically. They're way too hard with decision making. So I don't want to see any of these three champions in anyone's pool, Emerald or below. But if you look in Diamond Plus, I actually think that you can definitely have success on these champs. So we've got the nice colors on top. We're going to now start building a pool. And I'm going to give you guys a lot of different iterations of how to build a pool, depending on what type of champion that you want to be playing and building your pool around. And the way that we're going to navigate is we're going to first start with the ranks. If you are an iron, a bronze, a silver, or a gold player, what I recommend is 2 champions max in your pool, and feel free to cycle champs, aka play one champ very consistently, and your second champ, feel free to cycle it up maybe every month or two, so you also get different type of champs that you experience. If you're really new player, so if you're like really a true beginner in Iron, I recommend just don't even build a pool. Just play one champ, 80 games or 60 games, cycle over and over and over again. But if you get towards Platinum, Platinum Emerald, Platinum Emerald Diamond, I can see that you guys pick 3 champions in your pool and 3 champs that you want to build around. And if you're Master Plus, you can actually add a 4th and build around 4 champs consistently. So to make it a little bit more easy to understand for everyone, I'm going to be building champs around 3 champions. And if you are in the category of 4 or 2, feel free to just add or remove one, because 3 is just a very good average. So we're going to be starting off with a pool that I would build for myself. So if I am currently looking to get my perfect pool for season 15, what I would do is I would literally start with the evergreen champs, because I am looking to build champion mastery over a long period of time. The more champion mastery I have, the more I can focus on the game, on the fundamentals, and it's going to make it easier for me to improve. And the way I would be going about this is I would very simply start with picking a control mage from the evergreen pool, because I think they're always effective. For me, it would be either Syndra or Victor, because these are my 2 favorite champs. It really doesn't matter which one of the 4 that you actually choose, but I do recommend starting with one. So my first choice would be Syndra right here. And with that, you can see we have now different boxes here on this list. With that, I would pick a little bit more of a shove and move oriented champion, because I want to split identities of these champions. I don't want to be playing the same type of champs. If I pick Syndra plus Victor, my pool is not going to be covering a variety of different game states and drafts that you can be picking into. Because if you're playing into Jarvan, Aurora top, right, Maokai jungle, and Kai'Sa bot or Samurai, like, you don't really want to be playing Syndra or Victor, right? You're going to get yourself killed over and over and over again. So with this number 1, right, I would actually pick a little bit of more of a skirmish oriented champ, or a champ with a little bit more mobility, a little bit more shove and move oriented champion with it. And that would then be one from the evergreen or the semi-evergreen tier. Personally, I'd go for either Arya or Aurora because they are the strongest generally. And for me, Aurora really clicks well. Ari does so as well. So I would actually go for Aurora at this current moment. Um, because I actually think she's also going to be like one of Riot's favorites, right? This is a champ that will just be super, super, super strong. We also got the Aurora guide coming out on the MLA, which I made a lot of effort into, and it's a fantastic guide. So I'm really confident in this champion, and that would already have a very solid first two champions of the pool. And right now, what you can do is you can experiment a little bit here. If you're really trying to play through the book and you really want to play like these champs that are just always good, feel free to add a third champ in the Yone or Akali, which really covers your bases. You don't necessarily need an AD champion, but you can get an AD champion. So in that case, a champion like Yone would fit incredibly well, but a champ like Akali also does the job really well. There's a lot of tools to play against high threat comps, really a little bit more sideline oriented, assassin oriented, even though that Aurora can theoretically also fit that bill. Akali just does the job a little bit better. So you can opt in for a champion like Akali. Well, there's just really many options right here. You can also opt in for a champion like Lissandra to really play as a counterpick, or Pantheon to play against the Yones and the Yasuos if they're ever getting picked into you. Galio, if you really want a good answer versus these evergreen mages right here. Swain, if you want to pick versus a lot of melee characters, a champs that want to run into you. Karma, if you want to play heavily on the 2v2 with your jungle, a little bit more on the supportive style, because you feel like you need the shields and the prio. So there's a lot of options in this particular case. If you start off with two evergreen champs in different identities, so to say. That's one way I would approach it. Like, this would be my way of approaching it. These are my champions as well. I know that there's also a lot of other type of players out there, and hence, therefore, I'm going to be now covering what if you just cannot stay away from one of these hyper mechanical OTP champs. Give or say you are a Kiana OTP. We got a lot of them in the MLA. So let's pick Kiana as our number one. Because whenever you're playing a Kiana, what you want to do is you want to like really focus on this champion, right? Because this is a brutally hard mechanical champion that needs a lot of effort. And it means that a lot of your games want to be going towards Kiana, but you got a little bit of extra games that you can use to actually pick a different champion. And what I would actually do is I would actually look at Kiana as a champion. What type of champion is Kiana? Kiana is a little bit of this assassin-oriented champion as well, like we talked about with the Yone and the Akali, but she's a little bit more of a skirmish-oriented assassin and less of a sideline-oriented assassin. So personally, my recommendation would be, hey, let's pick a champion from the evergreen or the semi-evergreen tier that is actually a champ that complements Kiana a little bit. What you see with a lot of Kiana players is that Kiana players know how to burst and kill people. And if you like to burst and kill people, I actually recommend that you don't really go for the Wei, you don't really go for the Ori. Victor is possible, but my recommendation would be on Syndra. She is a mage that can complement what Kiana wants to be doing in her as a champion identity, and Syndra actually adds a whole new layer to strength of this pool. And this is then also a burst-oriented mage in which that a lot of the qualities that you already know and learn from Kiana actually travel over towards the Syndra as well. Most Kiana players that I've coached and really like over the past few years, like what actually happened is that most Kiana's players always wanted to make that swap towards mages. And when I look at the OBGGs right now, they'll all play Syndra. They're all Syndra players. This is a perfect transition of getting to a different style of champion. I would keep it at 2 though in a situation like this because of how highly and hyper mechanical these type of champions are. So that's an idea with Kiana. Now let's take a look at a champion like Katarina, which also I released a guide for on the Mid Lane Academy, which is also a very successful guide that I made, which I'm very happy with. So let's start with Katarina. Katarina is also a skirmisher. Right? She's a skirmisher. She's not a good side laner. And she has a very, very unique laning phase and just she's just so mechanical, man. When I played Katarina, I really figured out like how hard that this champion actually was to win games with. This champ's no joke. With Katarina, we see that there's a lot of holes in our pool. Like if you really want to climb a kata, I reckon just OTP her, and I would actually add a pool finisher to it, because I don't think Katarina really benefits from a lot of these evergreen champs like Kiana, because Katarina is a champ that doesn't really do that well in the 1v1 most of the times, well, compared to Kiana, who's actually a little bit better. So I actually think that an evergreen champ is not really going to put you on the right direction. I think a pool finisher is a great complementary champ, the choice for Kata, because that means that you can put a lot of emphasis on keeping your champion mastery high and just add a very quick, easy to play champ, easy to pick up, easy to pick in draft. Whenever you see that the enemy champ, for example, picks themselves, I don't know what they can pick, right? Imagine if the enemy champion picks an Akali. Like Akali is a brutal matchup for Kata, and you got yourself the pool finisher or the counter pick tier. And look at all these champs; they do incredibly well versus Akali. What if you put yourself in a position where you pick Galio or Pantheon? These champs nuke the hell out of Akali, and it really solidifies an extra part of your pool. This would be my mindset when I would be playing a hyper mechanical OTP champ. Now let's reverse engineer these type of champion pools as well, because a lot of players actually have this fantasy of playing with a champion. It's completely normal. Just people just love their champs, and that's okay, right? So what if you actually are Lissandra enjoyer? Like you just love Lissandra, and it's a pool finisher champ, but you just don't want it in there. Great. You can now reverse engineer your pool around the Lissandra. Add a champion like an evergreen mage that will actually teach you more about lane and in general, and will also cover your pool in the sense that you now have a little bit more lane power, which sometimes Lissandra lacks. So if you feel like you need this extra lane power in the matchup that you're going to be versing, pick that champion. That's completely fine. In that case, any of these four really do the trick. And this would be my mindset of building a pool that I would be like very comfortable with in season 15. This is the idea that I use. Number one, I look at the tier of the champions, and then I look at the identity of the champion. I try to fit a complementary champion, not one with the same identity or with the same playstyle. Damage spread is not really that important. Only in Master Plus, I think you actually need an AD champion in your pool. Besides that, you can just be fine with multiple AP champs. Only 1 out of 20 games are going to be really, really horrible. You can potentially dodge them because they don't happen that often. So that would be my mindset of engineering a champion pool like this. And as a final note, right, one thing that I wanted to say are, if you guys have any questions, right, about your champion pool, or you guys want to prepare your champion pool for season 15, or you're not really sure, feel free to link a comment here underneath the video, and I'm happy to give you guys some feedback onto the champion pool and see if you guys are on the right track moving on towards season 15, because that season is going to be an absolute banger. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you guys want coaching, link is going to be in the description. I hope you guys see you guys soon at the next video. See you later, guys.